What if I told you one generation grew up half wild, and that wildness rewired their brain forever? Not through lessons, not through motivation, through survival. People raised in the 1970s didn't just live differently, they think differently. No phones, no tracking, no constant supervision. You disappeared for hours, and nobody panicked. You learned the world by touching it, breaking it, fixing it. That kind of childhood builds something rare today. An inner voice that says, "I'll figure it out," even when nothing is clear. And that mindset still shapes how they trust, argue, love, and survive. People who grew up in the 1970s don't just remember a different world, they carry it. You see it in how they move through a room, in how they pause before answering, in how they don't rush to explain themselves. To anyone born after the 2000s, their psychology almost sounds unreal. There was no constant supervision, no GPS, no group chats checking your location every 10 minutes. If you vanished for 5 hours, nobody called the police. You didn't have a phone reminding you who to be. You had a bicycle, a few friends, scraped knees, and one flexible rule: be home before dark. And even that rule bent when the sun stayed up a little longer. So ask yourself this question slowly. What does that kind of freedom do to a child's brain? It plants something modern life rarely allows to grow. A quiet, unshakable belief. I'll figure it out. Not confidence taught in a classroom, not positivity shouted through a screen. A calm inner voice that whispers, even if I don't know what I'm doing, I'll adapt. But to understand this generation, you have to look at who raised them. Most were raised by parents shaped by war, rationing, loss, and rebuilding. Parents who didn't narrate their emotions, who didn't explain their trauma, who didn't sit you down and ask how you felt. They survived, and survival was the lesson. These parents didn't model comfort. They modeled endurance. They didn't complain out loud. They didn't dramatize hardship. They handled it. And children don't learn from speeches. They learn from observation. So responsibility wasn't theoretical. It was oxygen. You helped. You fixed things. You carried weight early. If something broke, you didn't replace it. You repaired it. If something went wrong, you didn't panic. You adjusted. There was no invisible safety net humming in the background. Help wasn't coming. You were the help. That does something permanent to a human being. It builds a backbone before you even realize you're standing upright. That's why people from that era often feel older than their age. Not physically, mentally. Their maturity didn't come from books, podcasts, or advice threads. It came from watching real life up close, unfiltered, undistracted. They saw adults work long hours without announcing it. They saw neighbors help each other without recording it. They saw real problems handled quietly. That environment teaches something modern culture rarely does. Life is serious, but you can handle it. Problems aren't personal failures. They're part of being alive. Responsibility isn't a punishment. It's the cost of existence. There's something almost poetic about this generation. They stand on a bridge, one foot in a slow, analog world where boredom existed and silence mattered. One foot in a fast, digital world they never asked for but learned to navigate anyway. They remember life before the internet, and they're watching a world that can't remember life without it. That's why talking to them feels different. They're present, grounded, unimpressed by noise. They're not performing. They're not chasing validation. Their confidence doesn't need approval, because it wasn't built online. It was built through pressure, responsibility, and being tested long before resilience became a buzzword. Now look at the generation born after the 2000s. Smart, creative, emotionally aware, and deeply tired. They grew up with screens before language fully formed. Notifications trained their attention from childhood. Their brains have been running at full speed for years, without rest. They absorb more information in one day than someone in the 1970s saw in a week. And the cost is everywhere. They tire faster, overwhelm easier, their attention fractures in seconds. Not because they're weak, but because their mind is constantly being pulled apart. Social media gives connection and pressure, comparison without permission, benchmarks they never agreed to. They feel behind even when they're doing fine. Their brain never fully rests, because the phone never stops asking. Scrolling feels like relaxation, but it isn't rest. This generation is surviving a world that moves faster than the human nervous system was ever designed to handle. One notification at a time. So here's the real question, and don't answer it quickly. Which generation had it harder? The one raised by freedom, silence, and responsibility? Or the one raised by stimulation, comparison, and constant noise? And where do you stand? Were you born before 1980 or after? Tell me in the comments. If this made you think, leave a like. It helps this message reach the right people. And if you want to keep going deeper, make sure you're subscribed. Because strength isn't taught, it's forged.